Hey book friends, welcome back to the channel. And so one thing I love about reading is that it really kind of meets you where you're at. And so in this past month, April, we've been preparing to move. We've been preparing to put our house on the market, and it's been so much work. And it's just been kind of a stressful situation. And so on one hand, I thought, well, maybe I won't read at all. But that wasn't the case. I actually think I read more books than I have in any month so far this year, which is impressive because this is by far my best reading year. And as you will see as we get into this wrap-up video, I read some unexpected books. Books that don't take themselves too seriously kind of reading. So instead of building this up, let me just talk about the books. So hi, my name is Angie. Welcome to the channel if you're new, or welcome back, all the things. So now let's just get into my April reading. I read 14 books and it was just entertaining and fun. For the most part, I only have like 1 2-star and the rest were like high 3, 4 stars, even a couple 5 stars. So I think I'll go opposite. I think I'll start with my 5 stars and then we'll wander through all the random things that I read. But I started with this book, Sunrise on the Reaping, by Suzanne Collins. It's the latest Hunger Games. Everybody's been talking about it and gushing about it. And yes, I gave it 5 stars. Yes, I really enjoyed it. This is the book that tells Haymitch's story, which as someone who just recently reread the Hunger Games, I feel like his character holds a special part of my heart. He's just like so broken in like the trilogy, the original trilogy, and you don't know why. And oh my gosh. You really get it in this story, and it's so good. It has everything you love from Hunger Games, right? It has all the trials, it has all the brutalness, it has all the backstabbing, propaganda, dystopian stuff that just is Hunger Games. And it definitely ranks up there with some of my favorite from the original series. But honestly, I've liked them all. I even love the President Snow one. I find his character really interesting. But anyway, 5 star. If you haven't read it yet, please do. It's so good. All right, to move on to a 4.5 star, which I'm rounding up to 5 stars, is a book I read on my Kindle, which you'll see I read a lot on my Kindle as long as I had the audiobook. Actually, everything on this list was on audiobook except for the one that I didn't make it all the way through because it was my only physical read. And so I read The Night Prince by Lauren Palferman, something like that. Oh my gosh, you guys. I love this series so far. So this is the second book in, I'm not even sure what the whole series is called, but The Wolf King is the first one, which I read last month. It is so much fun. It is werewolves, first off. That's fun. I don't think I've read like a werewolf book since Twilight, but it also has like a Scottish Highlands kind of flair to it, like an Outlander flair, which is fantastic. But what really hooked me and brought me into this series was one of our main male characters. I am learning that I love the like tortured, morally gray main male character. And this book had such a good one. It has such a good one because the whole premise of the story is that there's this princess, Aurora, who was like kidnapped from her father and brought into this like kingdom of the wolves, right? Which are second-class citizens in this world. And then she starts to realize they're not as like violent and terrible as she was brought to believe. And there's a love triangle. I love that kind of tension and banter. But really, the plot and the way book 2 ended, I'm so hooked. I cannot wait for the 3rd book. So I gave this one like 4.5 stars. It was so good. I am excited for the 3rd one because that means I get to read the first 2 again, which I'm excited about. So The Night Prince. If you haven't read it or haven't heard of it, it's on Kindle Unlimited. Go read it. It's really, really, really fun. Okay, moving on to my 4.25s. I know I'm like slicing it thin here with my star rating, but these books are like more than a 4 star for me. So 4.25. And the books are book 2 and 3 of the Defy the Night series by Bridget Kimmerer. I loved this story. You start out the first book, Defy the Night, with our main character of Tessa, who acts as this vigilante in the outskirts of this kingdom that is ravaged by this illness that there is only one cure, which is the moonflower petal. And so it has created this hierarchy system between people who can have the cure and people who can't. And she's acting a little bit like a Robin Hood figure to kind of steal from the rich to give to the poor, but it's not money, it's petals. And she has Wes who helps her, which we meet in the first book. And the story goes from there. What I loved about these books, which I think the author did just a fantastic job with, was the relationships between the characters. So you have a king and a prince who are like 25 and 21 or something like that. And they are trying to run this kingdom that is struggling, right? and they're having to make hard decisions and tough decisions. And then Tessa is brought into this world. And then the world expands as you go through book 2 and 3. But the overarching plot was very intriguing to me. The relationship between the brothers and the romantic relationship was really good. It is a YA fantasy series, and so there's like tension and yearning, but no spice, which is just kind of fun because you'll see as I get through my list, I have other books that were not YA. So I just really appreciated this series for what it was. And so I just highly recommend these. Please read them if you haven't. Okay, I read Say You'll Remember Me by Abby Jimenez. Like a lot of people read in April. You guys, it's so good. I really enjoy Abby Jimenez's writing. I enjoy how like she just pulls at your heartstrings. Now this one I wouldn't say was like my favorite Abby book, but it's just so good. Like in the end, I think I gave it 4.25. The general premise is there's these two people who meet on like the night before this girl is moving across country to help take care of her mom who has dementia. And it's like the best first date, and they both kind of fall for each other, but then she's like, this can't work, we can't be together because I'm moving. And that's really the plot. But what I loved about it is it has depth to it because there was a lot of life lived in the two storylines of the man who was left behind, who's like this veterinarian who built his practice, who's just had this terrible childhood, who's just trying to prove himself to himself and like his terrible parents. And then you have this girl who is just like sunshine and all of these things, and she then has to take on the hard of having a mom who's losing touch with reality, of having to care for her and not put her in a facility, of having to work with her siblings and her dad, and there's the challenges and just the grayness of making decisions in that situation. It was so good. And the relationship was also really good. It was hard because there was a whole lot of like distance, and the moments you had of them together was really fun. I just feel like it wasn't a full 5-star for me. 4.25, so good. Okay, so next comes to a series that I read in its entirety on my Kindle. I picked the first one up on a whim because the audiobook was available on Everand, and then I realized all 3 of them were available on Everand and everything else was on Kindle Unlimited. So I picked up an Olivia Wildenstein trilogy. It's one of her older ones. It's called the Angels of Allesium trilogy, and you have Feather, Celestial, and Starlight. I'll scoot over and put all 3 of them up here because I read all 3 of them. This is a great example of my reading right now. It has to be a story that just hooks me. These books are about angels, which I thought was really fun because fantasy is so full of like vampires and werewolves and fae and stuff like that, that angels just kind of intrigued me. The last angel book I read was Crescent City by Sarah J. Maas. The first one I loved, and this kind of gave me similar vibes. It wasn't perfect, definitely has some plot holes or whatnot, but I was not reading critically for that. I was like, take me along, tell me a story, and it did. Let me give you the plot line I realize I haven't yet, is that there are these angels whose job it is to like rehabilitate like humans or sinners. And so they go in and they try to help them change their life to be better people. And in that they build their wings, and there's a lot of this angel hierarchy and politics and rules and stuff that's just fun, not overwhelming. It's not too big of a world building situation. It's mostly following these main characters who are trying to build their wings to make it up into Elysium, or this like heaven area. And our main character of Lay, who goes after the certain sinner who's like a mafia boss. I really enjoyed her character. I enjoyed like her inner monologue. I also enjoyed Jared, the main male character in that first book, and their interactions and how that played out through all 3 books. So I do recommend reading them quickly. I mean, okay, some people don't like to binge. I like to binge, and I really enjoyed this whole story in its entirety. And so I gave these books 4-star for the first one, 3.75 for the second one, and then 4-star for the third one. Because of the switch of focus in that second one, it was still good and it was still necessary for the plot. But let me get to some more 3.75. So these are not quite 4-star books, but they're still really good, still really fun. I enjoyed them. And so I stopped off on another romance. So you can see I've been reading like fantasy, romantasy, romance, and a little Hunger Games all mixed into my month. And I read this book because I put it on my spring TBR. I borrowed it from my sister. It has like spring-esque vibes. It's called Forget Me Not by Julie Soto. Never read from this author before. It was a really fun time in the sense of just kind of the topic. I like romance books about wedding planners. I just do. I know it's very cliche and there's so many romance books about that, but our main female character is a wedding planner. And this is technically a second chance romance because in the past she had dated this guy named Elliot who owned a florist shop, like inherited by his father. And she worked with him because she was a wedding planner until it all fell apart, right? And so in this book, it follows that storytelling style of they're telling the past along with the present timeline. Like, so they're telling what went wrong, which sometimes doesn't work for me. I can remember, what book was it? The Vacation book by Emily Henry that I didn't like. I didn't like that, let me tell you what was the big bad thing that this girl did that broke everything apart. You know, I don't usually like that. And that's part of what I didn't love about this book. And the other part was our main female character of Amma. I thought she was just a bit much. I didn't enjoy her storyline. She just was very flighty, not very relatable in the way she made decisions and the way she did things and whatever. But I did really like the main male character. I thought he was just really quirky and really fun, but not too quirky, not like over the top, which I feel like can happen in books like this. But he felt just a little bit more relatable and interesting to me. Romances, I'm realizing I like them. I just have to sporadically read them because I feel like they lack a bit of the plot that I like from like a fantasy romance, where the fantasy plot is what I really like and the romance and the yearning is secondary. And so when that's all there is, I don't love it as much unless it's like Abby Jimenez. Now to move to another whole series that I read on Kindle Unlimited that might surprise some people. And that was Zodiac Academy. So this is a series that kind of like Fourth Wing at the beginning of the year where I'm like, I am just curious about this book series. I want to understand what it's about. I knew it was a bully romance. I knew some of the bullying was ridiculous, which it was. But I also was like, you know, I loved The Cruel Prince, which is also kind of a bully romance, but not even in the same league as Zodiac Academy. Like, that was really tame in comparison to this story, which is about Tori and Darcy, who are these girls who grow up in the human world. They don't realize they're part of the Fae world, let alone Fae princesses, until they get brought back to Zodiac Academy and told that in order to gain the throne and their inheritance, they have to graduate from the academy. But the problem is there's these like 4 male heirs that were promised the throne because these princesses were missing, and they don't like them coming in and kind of usurping them, right? And so they are terrible, terrible to them. Now, I did not like that part by any means. Like, it was hard for me, especially in one of the sisters, to be like, how are you okay with this dude? Like, how is there any romance after what they've done? You know, I just have a tough time believing that. And I know that's the bully romance storyline, right? I know that. And so it took me a little bit to read kind of past that. And the books have introduced a bigger storyline. So I read, like I said, the first 3. It's called like The Awakening, Ruthless Fae, and The Reckoning, maybe. Although it's lots of pages. It's one story. It's like one semester. It's like a couple months. Like, really, it feels like the bullying goes on and on and on because it's giving a lot of detail to a short amount of time. What they started at the very beginning of book 1 kind of concluded a bit at the end of book 3 with a big, massive cliffhanger, right? And so I really enjoyed reading it that way because it just felt like a full story, not like individual installments of a series, because I realize it's a very large universe. And I am considering reading like this entire universe via a reading order. I got This Girl Reads or something like that. I'll link her down below. She's fantastic. She loves all of these books. And so I think I might segue to Ruthless Boys. Anyway, my take home from these books is I needed a series and books that did not take themselves too seriously because I just was not in the headspace to pay attention very well. And this series just did the trick. It's exactly what I needed in this season. So I might have picked it up at another time and not liked these at all, but it just worked for my crazy squirrel brain. And so I gave them like 3.75, rounded up to 4. And I acknowledged the fact that they're not the best writing, but the story was fun and engaging, and listening to it was just perfect as I was like mopping all of my walls in my entire house. So Zodiac Academy. It was really fun. All right, we're getting there. We only have 2 more books mostly to talk about. So I also read Fantasma this month by Kaylee Smith, and I liked it, but I didn't love it. I feel like the story was pretty good. I feel like this again falls into the camp of like, this book didn't take itself too seriously. It was just kind of a fun, good time where we have our main character of Ophelia, who is this necromancer that has been passed on from her mother, and for reasons, she has to enter this deadly competition in this manor house to gain a wish from the devil that runs Fantasma, a cursed manor full of like twisted corridors and just games and things around every corner, and they get progressively harder and harder based on how many floors you pass, if you will. That part was probably my favorite. I really enjoyed the house. I really enjoyed the games. I did really enjoy our love interest because this is a romantasy book. Ophelia meets this phantom, I forgot, Blackwell is his name, and who she strikes a bargain with to help her, right? And in the end, she's trying to find her sister. I think I forgot to mention that. She's trying to find her sister who went into this game, and she's fearful that she's gonna die if she doesn't rescue her, sort of idea. I think my biggest complaint probably from this was I heard this was rather spicy. And it was, like, to the point where I'm like, was this all necessary? Because there's like this deadly competition and there's other things going on, right? And they just can't get off each other. And to me, that adds a like unbelievability to the storyline, even though I did like their chemistry and I did enjoy their banter and I did enjoy the reveals. And so this landed more at like a 3.5 stars. So it's not like something I disliked. I enjoyed my time in it. It's just not my favorite, mainly because of like this spicy level. Although I'm learning that sometimes I could read books that have a lot of spice if I like the characters and really believe their story. All right, so the last book I want to talk about is the book that I didn't love. And I read this for a podcast episode with Gwen on the Talk Bookish With Me podcast. I will link the episode down below. Go check her out. I love her podcast. I love discussing things with her. It was a really fun time. It was my first experience with being on a podcast and I really enjoyed it. And we read this book. So that's Beautiful Ugly by Alice Feeney. 1, I love the cover. It's like striking and really pretty. 2, Alice Feeney is a hit or miss author for me. I loved Daisy Darker. I dislike Sometimes I Lie. This book falls more in the dislike pile for a couple different reasons. So it has to do with our main character of Grady, who has recently lost his wife, or she went missing under certain like mysterious circumstances, and he is having a tough time getting over it, so much so that it's affecting his writing life because he is an author, until his agent sends him to this like remote Scottish island to see if it can get like his writing juices flowing, right? But when he gets there, the island is a bit peculiar. The island and its inhabitants probably were some of the most interesting parts of this book, but I felt like the book in its entirety dragged. Like so much so that I was just like struggling to read the middle parts. And even the twists and reveals were good, and I didn't see them coming. I predicted a little bit of it, but by no means did I predict very much of it, because Alice Feeney does do twists and turns really well. So I do appreciate that about her books. But I feel like how this book ended, I didn't like. This has never happened to me, but like I literally read the last line of this, which if you've read it, you know what I'm talking about. And I closed the book and I looked at my husband and I was like, I don't think I liked this book. Like it was just this overwhelming, like, why did I read this? My heart, my whole person was just like, this book, I didn't like it that much. It's like thriller books. You're not supposed to like love the characters, right? It's not like a romance book. Maybe it was just wrong place, wrong time sort of idea. But I ended up giving this probably a 2 star, 2.5 maybe. I was wobbling between a 2 and 3 until I went on the podcast and chatted with Gwen, who I'll link below, and Jessie from Reading with Jess, and they just loved it. And I was like, oh, I really didn't. And so I think I'm more at a 2 star. So this is probably my worst book of the month, but that's okay. And after that, you can see that I was struggling to pick up anything that didn't have stakes or didn't have romance. And so I did try and pick up these 2 books because they were on my TBR University TBR. And I bounced off of them, and not because they were bad. My brain couldn't do it, and so I soft DNF'd those 2 books. Okay, and those books, I guess I didn't say them out loud. That was The Last Thing He Told Me by Laura Dave, and Here One Moment by Leanne Moriarty. I really do want to read both of these books still, so they're staying on my shelves. April was not the time. And the other thing I read in April, which I'm still reading, is Ruin by John Gwen. This book is really good. I'm still really enjoying Corbin. I'm really enjoying the whole like God war, the good guy versus the bad guys, and following what's going on in our ragtag band of people all over this realm. It's really good. It's just slow going. It's slow going for me, and I come and go with it. Sometimes when I'm a little less stressed, I'll pick it up. And other times I'm like, I can't for the life of me keep track of who is who, and it's just a little too complex, but complex in a good way. It is really entertaining. So I'm still reading Ruin, and I'm just gonna keep reading that even if it takes me a while. But that's the third book in the Faithful and the Fallen series. So you guys, that was a lot. And a lot of it was just easy reading, easy listening books. And that's okay. That's what I needed. And so that's all I have. Let me know what you think. Let me know what you think of some of the books I picked up, like Zodiac Academy or Sunrise on the Reaping, Say You'll Remember Me, all these good books. It was really a good reading month, and I'm so happy I picked up some books, and I hope some of these lesser known books intrigue you a little bit. Let me know down below if you have read some things like The Night Prince or the Olivia Wildenstein books. But if you have nothing you necessarily want to say, let's do a little angel emoji. I bet there is one. Something along those lines down below for the angel books that I read. So anyway, that's what I have. I hope you all are well, and I will see you in the next book video. All right, guys, take care.